It's an exciting day here at the Edmunds test track because we don't just have any Cybertruck here, we have our Cybertruck here that we bought with our own money. Casey, I think it broke again.
What's wrong?
Everything?
We've already put a Cybertruck through a three-way comparison test with our long-term F-150 Lightning and Rivian R1T, and we also put that truck on the world-famous Edmunds EV range test. But because it was a truck that we borrowed and not one that we owned, we couldn't actually bring it out to our test track.
We're gonna fix all that and give you the full numbers for the Tesla Cybertruck. And we've been living with the Cybertruck for about a month now, and in that short amount of time already, our editors have a bunch of impressions, and let me tell you, we gotta talk.
Okay, so let's first go over the Cybertruck's testing results, which we were able to grab the week before when it threw a big critical error the first time. And yes, this has happened to us twice now in the span of a week. But the results that we got were quite impressive. 0 to 60 miles an hour in just 4 seconds, and the quarter mile in only 12.3 seconds at 110.2 miles an hour. That makes it slower than our quad motor R1T, but faster than the F-150 Lightning. As for braking, it slowed from 60 to 0 miles an hour in 126 feet and pulled 0.76 lateral G on the skid pad. That's slightly better braking performance than we saw out of the other two trucks, but a worse figure on the skid pad.
Countdown time.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, that punch of Tesla acceleration off the line. There goes 60, there goes 80, there's 110. Oh, it's definitely faster than it needs to be.
We also had to put our Cybertruck once again through the Edmunds EV range test, just to verify the results we got the first time. The identically spec'd dual motor Foundation Series truck we tested previously covered 334 miles on a full charge. And when we ran the test again with our truck, we got 334 miles again, exactly the same result. Both tests were run without the aero covers on the wheels, because even though Tesla has recently started installing an updated version of the covers that won't damage your tires, we still haven't gotten ours yet. Once we do, it looks like we'll be running the range test again, and of course, we'll share those results with you, so keep an eye on our channel and on Edmunds.com for the latest news on our truck. With testing out of the way, it was time to shoot some car-to-car footage on our handling course that we'd show you while I shared some dynamic impressions about how the Cybertruck drives on our track and on the street. But things went wrong after just a lap or two, and the Tesla started throwing us error messages.
Driving Cybertruck.
No bueno. Casey, I think it broke again.
What's wrong?
Everything?
Can you get do we have a handheld camera, 24 to 105? Can we get that, please? We'll just document this. This might just become the story. All right, Brian, so the plan was we were going to go ahead and get you driving around the track. Can you walk us through what's going on? What's happening?
Okay, so our plan was to take the Cybertruck around handling and tell you what it's like to drive on the street, and then maybe tell you what it's like to drive on the track a little bit. But while we were filming our car-to-car, it started to throw errors on the powertrain and basically limited our speed and said that our power output was limited, and that maybe if we turn the car off and then get back out and then get back in, that might fix it. So we got out and got back in, and now it won't get out of park. So we're getting a series of errors telling us that the power has been reduced, that the powertrain requires service, that the rear wheel steering has been disabled, that the adaptive cruise control won't work. It's actually just throwing us all these errors. It's giving us an option to contact roadside assistance on the screen here. Our air conditioning is also blowing hot air on a hot day, which is not ideal. So don't know how the rest of this filming and testing day is gonna go, but it's not looking great.
And guess who gets to drive it home?
And guess who gets to drive it home? If it'll drive. This guy.
We're re-rolling just to pick up, go for it.
Okay, so it won't shut out of park, but it is telling me that I can sort of override the system to see if it'll limp. So we're gonna try that right now. Accept override. Try to do this. Yeah, so this is basically the same error that we got last time, the critical steering issue. So I'm gonna try to go forward and see if we can get this thing to move. Here we go. So we can limp it around. It's going about 3 miles an hour right now. And I guess we're on a slow trip to nowhere. This is the future. We put in our money 4 years ago, and we waited a long time to get our Cybertruck, and it's going great. Everything's great. Now, our goal today was also to tell you what it's like a bit to drive around our track, but this is sort of the second time that we've had some pretty catastrophic failures when driving the vehicle around handling. Previously, our director of testing, Jonathan O'Fallon, he did about 1.5 laps on handling in the truck, and then it threw a critical steering issue and went into limp mode. And then now we have this giant flashing red screen again, the exact same error as last time. We're in limp mode and we're stuck at 4 miles an hour. And then the other thing is too, it's telling me that the low voltage battery is also not really working. So it's a pretty hot day and the AC is also not working. So it's getting kind of hot in here. So I'm gonna put the windows down before I start to sweat too much.
Because I'm a professional, even though our Cybertruck was only limping along at 4 miles an hour, I still hung in there to tell you how this thing drives on the street at speeds higher than single digits.
So, on the street, actually, I find the Cybertruck to be pretty easy to drive. It does remind you of driving other Teslas, just with a bit of a different sort of steering feel. The steering is probably the thing that takes the most time to get used to, because it's a different sort of steering setup. The closest thing is probably the Model S Plaid with its yoke. Lock to lock is like pretty short, and the system is always sort of changing the ratio, but I would say that it doesn't take too long to get used to. I drove it around for about a week, and after that I thought I had a pretty good idea of what the truck would do. Now there are times, especially when you're doing like slower turns, like let's say you're turning right from a stoplight, where you might overshoot and have to correct a little bit, but it's nothing that's too sudden, and I think you do get used to the steering rather quickly. When it comes to like the ride quality, I think it's actually quite good. It's still kind of like a truck, especially when it's on these sort of big all-terrain tires. You get a decent amount of tire noise, but overall the cabin is pretty quiet, and I would say that the ride is actually quite comfortable enough that you could drive the Cybertruck for a pretty long distance and be okay with it. The most difficult part about driving the Cybertruck is actually sort of the blind spots and the limited visibility. But yeah, I would say that if you're just driving around on the street, it's fairly easy to pick up, and though everything sort of feels different than it does in any other vehicle, it's not too hard to sort of get your bearings. So last time, the way that we sort of solved this issue was we parked the car for a couple hours and then came back to it. So we'll probably have to do something similar. We're gonna have to go let it sit for a bit in the parking lot and hope that it comes back. And then hopefully we can sort of show you the rest of the things that we had planned for the day. But otherwise, she might have to take a trip on the back of a tow truck somewhere. Yep. Great video. So normally for a conclusion, we like to find a nice, pretty spot with great lighting, so I look good, the vehicle looks good, but the reason that we're right here in this sort of awkward spot is that the Cybertruck doesn't want to move anymore. It won't even limp, and so we had to park it right here, and we're gonna let it sit for a while to see if it comes back to life later on. We had really big plans for today. We wanted to show you a bunch of different things, tell you a bit more about what it's like to live with, but whenever we try to drive it a little bit quickly, it just sort of takes a big old dump on itself. And so this is really the reason that we buy all these vehicles and keep them long-term, so we can actually show you what it's like to live with them and show you what might happen should you choose to invest your own money into one of these vehicles. This is the second time that the Cybertruck has done this to us, and we haven't done anything that I would say is even vaguely irresponsible with it. All we've done is drive it a little bit quickly on our handling course, something we've done with hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, and we haven't really run into this issue before in any of them. So stay tuned. Be sure to check out our long-term blog where we're gonna break down sort of what happened with the Cybertruck and give you sort of a resolution. Did it come back to life? Did we need to get it towed, etc.? And yeah, all I can say is stay tuned. Hopefully we have a lot more coming to you with the Cybertruck if it ever decides to move again.